Hey, it's Mo. I am so glad you're here. It's been a little tricky to fit in filming lately. I'm just kind of busy and also, trying to wait for that natural light, but I've got a beautiful day today. I'm so happy. I can't wait. I'm going to go for a walk today too. Um, I only film with natural light, and the reason for that is that's so that you can see my real skin and what it looks like. Because I have pores and I have lines and scars, and I'm just a real person who really loves makeup. And I like to make this as realistic as I can for you. I mean, I realize it's coming to you through a camera, so it's not exactly like being in person, but I'm doing all the steps I can to keep that as real as I can. I am wearing foundation. So far, I've got, in case you're curious, the Fenty foundation, the Pro Filter Hydrating in 185. I've got the Almay Brow Stylist on, and my beloved Milani eyeshadow primer, which is my go-to and has been for several years. And then I have some lip balm on, the e.l.f. Calm Balm. I've been using this for, I don't know, a month or so. It's no great shakes. It's fine. It's not blowing me away, but I don't mind it. But, and I also wanted to mention before we officially get started with the review that I am working with a different camera. So the reason for that is that I'm thinking this one will even more accurately show you like what I really look like. That is my hope anyway. And I'm hoping it's a little bit better, not blowing out the light so much when I'm doing swatches and things. So we'll hope that is the case. But the reason you're here is for a review of the Sugar Rush Tarte Summer Playlist Eye and Cheek Palette. Now, Sugar Rush is, some people say, a sister brand to Tarte. I'd really call it like a subsidiary of Tarte. You know, it's interesting that Tarte always puts their name on Sugar Rush things, so it's very clear that it's like Sugar Rush by Tarte. They don't completely separate it. It's virtually right next to Tarte products in Ulta, for example. So kind of a subsidiary would be my take on it. But anyway, I got this about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I bought it from the Tarte website. It was when they were having I think it was a 30% off sale, and I saw it this week on Ulta, and it's $17 on Ulta. And maybe you saw this pop up and you're like, oh, I wonder what that is. I wonder if it's worth $17. And also, I'm kind of enjoying right now finding smaller palettes, mini palettes, things like that, maybe if I feel like doing some retail therapy, I want to do something not quite so expensive. So this I thought might be useful to you, a review of this. So this is what the box looks like. This is the back, just ingredients, nothing too exciting there. This is cruelty-free and vegan, by the way, according to their information. And let's take a look at the actual palette. And I'm going to tell you right up front that the reason I bought this was for the packaging. A friend of mine on Instagram, Michelle, actually let me know about this. I had not seen it anywhere. I'd not heard about it. And I was like, what? It looks like a cassette tape. What? Summer playlist? What? So 30% came up at tartecosmetics.com, and I purchased it. So this is what the front looks like. As I said, it looks like a cassette tape, and the back very similar. And then on the inside, I think it's rather clever. So they've got, we've got pause, stop, rewind, fast forward, and of course, play, just like you would on an old tape recorder. I thought it was an interesting choice. So I thought that was kind of cool. So the packaging, clearly I like. I bought it for the packaging. I'm not disappointed. It is cardboard, by the way. And there's a mirror, which I think is pretty nice, especially for the price. And then in terms of size, the blush is 4.5 grams, a little smaller than a standard blush, but not too bad, really. And then each eyeshadow pan is 2 grams, which is really pretty large. A typical palette would have a 1 gram eyeshadow pan. So we're getting quite a bit in here for $17. So those are kind of the nuts and bolts of things. And then, of course, we'll do some swatches. I know that's usually everybody's favorite part, myself included. And I'm going to apply it for you and just give you my thoughts on it, because it is not a first impression. I've used it several times, and my thoughts have already been formed on this, and I will let you know that. But first, let's do some swatches, okay? So let's do Play, which is the blush. We will do Pause, kind of this ivory shade, and Stop, which is the only shimmer in the palette. Everything else is matte. So there are the colors. There's the blush. There's the ivory shade. There's that shimmer. And then the remaining two colors are, as I said, both matte, Rewind and Fast Forward. And there are those. Rewind, Fast Forward. So it is, as you can see, a 5-color palette that they're denoting as blush, and then 4 eyeshadows. You can probably tell from the swatches, some of these do not have a lot of color payoff. The blush in particular isn't one of those blushes that you're just like, whoa, look at that swatch. And these shadows are fairly hard pressed in the pans. These take some work and some building up. So that's the specific reason I wanted to demo this for you today. So you can see, you know, aside from the swatches, what's it really doing? So I thought we'd start with the blush, and I try to keep things as consistent as I can across, you know, my videos. So I'm using the e.l.f. blush brush, which is what I typically use. I didn't want to use a special brush. I didn't want to do anything differently. I just wanted to see, I'm getting, you know, I'm digging in there pretty good. We're putting on the blush. So no blush, blush. So I'm going in again. And I admit, because the name Tarte is on here, I made the assumption that this formula would be the same as the Tarte Amazonian Clay 12-hour blushes, which I think a lot of us know. They've been popular for a very long time for a very good reason. They have really good color payoff, and they also last quite well on the cheeks. So that's 3 times in with this blush. So no blush yet here, blush here. So I'm gonna try to pack this one on a little bit quicker. But I know when I first put this palette on, first of all, I like the blush shade. It's a pretty standard peachy pink. No mind-blowing creativity in the color there, which is okay. I'm fine with that. This is obviously just a pretty basic neutral palette. But I will admit that the blush was a bit disappointing the first time I put it on. I was like, oh, this is not gonna be like the Tarte formula I am accustomed to, but they didn't say it was. So that was my own expectation going in, just based on experience with Tarte. But I have to remember Sugar Rush is not the same as Tarte. So I think we're pretty even there. So can I build it up to something that I think looks good and is a pretty color? I can. But I really kind of need to pile it on, which I wasn't expecting. And then let's do the eyeshadows again so you can see what we're talking about here. Now I will say this, several times that I've used this, I'm really coming up with pretty much the same look every time. So, I mean, there's not a ton of variety, right? With 4 shades, and you know, you look at this and you're kind of like, okay, this would be kind of the transition shade, this will go in the crease, this will go on the brow bone, and maybe that'll go on the lid. I'm not saying it has to be that way, but you know, based on what people frequently do with their eyeshadow, it seems like something pretty predictable what people would do. There is a little powder kick up. I lied. Can you see that on this shade? Let me see if you can see that. So I pounced in there several times. I'm gonna use the mirror on here. So I've got it here. I don't have it here. Ooh, I kind of dug in there a lot. Some of that powder might be from me kind of pouncing in there. So this eye has it, this eye doesn't. I've gone in twice already with a fair bit of product. I'm gonna do another one. So again, so 3 times in with that shade on that eye. I'm gonna just do the same over here quickly. So that is Rewind. About 3 times in, 3 passes with that, and you can see the palette kind of powdery, some kick up. Oh, and I didn't even point out, my brushes are clean. A very rare occurrence on my channel. I use the Wayne Goss eye set almost, I think, in every video I do. And they're rarely clean, but today they're clean. So let's celebrate that, shall we? So that was the number 17 brush, which I typically use for transition color or whatever. And then I like this little one, actually, the 20 brush, to go in sometimes to deeper colors to get them into the crease, which I will do now. Got that a little higher than I intended, but that's not a huge deal. And, you know, I say this every time I demo eyeshadow, but I'm not like going for the most time consuming or fantastic look I can get out of this palette. I'm mainly doing this to show you the performance. And I try to, as I said, I try to be consistent across my videos, using the same brushes, using the same lighting, etc. So I'm going to go back in one more time with that deeper chocolate shade. And this one does have some color, obviously. This shows up, this swatched better also than the other matte shades. This was the best swatching of the matte shades. I would say it's the best performing of the matte shades. But it does take a bit of blending. I'm going to bring that into my outer corner. So that's what we have with those two colors. And then I'm going to use my finger on the stop shade. So this, as I said, is the only non-matte color in the palette. This is I would call it a metallic. There's the swatch again. Yeah, I would call it more than just a shimmer. I think it's a metallic. So I typically use my finger for this kind of shadow, regardless of the palette. And you can see it's certainly going on, but it's going on in more of a wash, I would say. But it does build up, you know, as I go back a few times. And I'm going in pretty good. You know, I'm really rubbing that pan. It's so interesting that these are a bit powdery, but boy, they feel stiff in the pan. Even this one feels rather stiff. You know, it doesn't have that buttery, like, ooh, feeling you get from a lot of shimmers or metallics. I'm gonna take pause, use that on kind of a blend out color and on the brow bone. Which isn't bad, actually. I don't mind this as a, you know, if this shade works for you, if this isn't too light for your skin tone, it's not a bad ivory, but it's also nothing earth-shattering. So this is what the palette looks like, probably in its most simple form. There's the eye look, there's what the blush is looking like after several passes. So obviously you can form your own thoughts on that, but here are mine. Love the packaging. It's adorable. It is a lot of product for what you're paying for, $17. Is it great quality? I don't think so. I think the quality is okay. I certainly don't think it's the worst thing I've ever worked with. It is far from the best blush or eyeshadow I've ever worked with. But the interesting thing is, every time I've worn it, I like the look. So in a sense, for me, now granted, as I always say, I only have one skin tone. I can only speak from my perspective and, you know, one eye color and that kind of thing. For me, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, which is interesting. I don't know if I've ever come across that before. That, I mean, if you look at the swatches and at, you know, kind of the individual performance of these, I'm not overwhelmed, but I'm not disappointed with the look I get. However, I do put in a little more time and I do have to do some more building. So when I ordered it, if I had known how these would perform and that I like the look that I came out with, would I have ordered it again? No, I would not have. So I'm happy with this look. It looks nice. It does wear well, you know, because I've worn this look several times all day basically, and the shadows do seem to hang in there pretty well and the blush does pretty well. But I'm sure I could get a very similar look out of any number of palettes that I have, and I think it would take less work. So it's not, it's really, this one's tricky because I don't feel like this is absolutely do not get this. Because for me, looking at this little palette and the packaging and the names and the look that I end up with has made me kind of happy. But by the same token, it's just not that great. I wish it was. I wish it was like cool, awesome Tarte formula, which it does not claim to be. But I feel like I could do something from the drugstore that's less than $17, gives me a similar look, and maybe doesn't take as much work. So for your money, would I recommend it? I don't recommend it. I wish I could. I think it's so cute. And if you love the packaging, and if, you know, maybe you have a big collection, or like I said, you're like, you want something cute and nice and serviceable that would just come in the mail and make you happy, maybe that's worth $17. So that part's up to you. But in terms of the formula and all that stuff, I just don't recommend this one, and I wish I could because I think it's so cute. So I hope that was helpful because that is, as always, my only purpose here. And I hope you are doing well. I love that you check in and just want to talk about makeup because I absolutely love this stuff. I hope you are at peace today, and I will talk to you soon.